The Park Maniac, Man or Monster. Chapter 1, The Shadow in the Green, Sao Paulo, late 1990s. A city of 17 million people, noise, concrete, and chaos. On weekends, families escape to Parque do Estado, a patch of Atlantic forest in the South Zone, a place to breathe, a place to feel safe. Nobody knew a predator was already hunting there. His name was Francisco de Assis Pereira, a motorcycle courier, quiet, forgettable, the kind of man you'd pass on the street without a second glance. But behind that ordinary face lived something dark, something that had been growing for years. This case shook Brazil to its core. It filled every newspaper, every TV screen, and sparked a question nobody could answer. How does a normal man become a serial killer? To find out, we need to go back to the beginning. Chapter 2, Where Monsters Are Made. Francisco was born in 1966 in Guaraqueaba do Norte, Ceará, a tiny sun-scorched town in Brazil's northeast. His family was poor and large. His father ruled with violence, not love. Francisco grew up beaten, humiliated, and silenced. He was born with a physical anomaly, only one testicle, which made him a constant target for mockery. At home, there was no comfort. Women in his family existed under his father's domination. There was no model for affection, only power. Like millions of Northeasterners, he migrated to Sao Paulo searching for a fresh start. He became a motorcycle courier, invisible, mobile, anonymous. The perfect cover for what he would become. The seed of violence planted in childhood had found new soil. Chapter 3, Cracks in the Mask. Sao Paulo didn't heal Francisco. It made things worse. On the surface, people described him as polite, even shy. But in relationships, the pattern was toxic. Obsessive control, jealousy, aggression. He developed a fetish for biting women's breasts during sex, a compulsion that would later become his criminal signature. When a girlfriend rejected his violent behavior, something broke. Old wounds ripped open. The rage he'd been swallowing for decades demanded an exit. That's when he came up with the plan. He started approaching young women near modeling agencies, posing as a photographer named Vitor. The pitch was always the same, a photo shoot in a beautiful, quiet location. The location was always Parque do Estado. The beast was ready to hunt. Chapter 4, The Ritual, 1998. For the women who met Vitor, he was a door to opportunity. A charming man with a camera and big promises. He took them on his motorcycle deep into the forest, where the trees swallowed every sound. Then the mask dropped. He tied them up, raped them, bit them, strangled them, often with their own shoelaces. Then he hid the bodies under leaves and brush, like secrets buried in the earth. Between March and August 1998, the park became his private graveyard. Valeria, Isadora, Selma, and others, young women with names, dreams, and families, all destroyed by one man's need for power. This was never about passion, it was about domination. Chapter 5, A City in Panic. At first the cases seemed unrelated. A body here, another there. Then the press connected the pattern: sexual assault, strangulation, bite marks. The same method, every time. São Paulo had a serial killer. Panic hit the city like a shockwave. The park, once a symbol of peace, became a place of terror. Women avoided the streets. Every motorcycle courier became a suspect. The question haunted everyone: who is he? TV stations ran the story non-stop. Tabloid shows exploited every detail. The media gave him a name: Maniaco do Parque, the Park Maniac. Police were under crushing pressure. Each new body meant more outrage, more fear, more demands for answers. The manhunt wasn't just about catching a criminal. It was about saving a city's sanity. Chapter 6, The Hunt. The investigation was a mess at first. Police released a composite sketch based on bad testimony, a blonde, light-eyed man. It looked nothing like Francisco. The real killer kept hunting while cops chased a ghost. The breakthrough came from two unlikely sources. First, a survivor. One of his victims, left for dead, lived to tell her story. She gave police everything: his appearance, his voice, the motorcycle, his fake name, Vitor, his photo shoot routine. Second, a street vendor near the park. He'd noticed a man buying bus tickets for young women after shoots. He wrote down the motorcycle's license plate. When police matched the plate to the new sketch, the circle closed. On August 4, 1998, they arrested Francisco de Assis Pereira. He denied everything. But in his house, they found belongings of his victims. The hunt was over. The man who terrorized Brazil's largest city was slight, soft-spoken, and completely unremarkable. That was the scariest part. Chapter 7, Judgment Day. The trial began in 1999 and became a national spectacle. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, forensic reports, victims' belongings, and the devastating testimony of the survivor. They painted Francisco as a calculating predator who knew exactly what he was doing. The defense argued he was mentally ill, a broken product of a traumatic childhood. Francisco himself was chilling. He confessed in cold detail, describing murders as if narrating someone else's life. No emotion, no remorse, just facts, delivered with disturbing calm. For the victims' families, every court session was agony. The verdict: guilty of 7 murders and 9 attempted murders. Combined sentence: over 280 years, one of the longest in Brazilian history. The gavel fell, but closure never came. The families were left with scars that no sentence could heal. Chapter 8, Behind Bars. Francisco traded the streets for Taubaté, maximum security prison. Inside, he became a dark celebrity. He gave interviews, found religion, read the Bible, called himself a changed man, asked God and the families for forgiveness. Was any of it real? Most experts say no. Psychopaths are master performers. They mimic emotions to manipulate, to earn privileges, sympathy, reduce sentences. In one interview, he said with chilling precision, "I was 2 people, Francisco the worker and Vitor the monster." Whether that duality was real or rehearsed, it kept the public fascinated and horrified. His cell became his last stage, and the question of his transformation became his final manipulation. Chapter 9. Inside the Mind, psychiatrists diagnosed Francisco with antisocial personality disorder,
his traumatic childhood
psychopathy,
didn't justify anything.
the classic profile,
but it
zero
explained
empathy,
the architecture.
no remorse, skilled manipulation, an insatiable hunger for control. He didn't see his victims as people. They were objects for his fantasies. His traumatic childhood didn't justify anything, but it explained the architecture. Years of abuse built a deep inferiority complex and a hatred of women, whom he associated with rejection and humiliation. Killing was his twisted way of reversing the equation. By dominating, he felt powerful for the first time. The fake identity, Vitor, was his fantasy self, the confident, desired man he could never be. The bite was symbolic, an attempt to consume and destroy the femininity that both obsessed and terrified him. He wasn't insane. He knew right from wrong. He simply didn't care. Chapter 10. The Echo. Francisco de Assis Pereira ended up in a cell, but his crimes left permanent damage. The victims weren't only the women he killed, they were the families sentenced to lifelong grief, the city whose sense of safety shattered, the women who still feel fear walking through parks at dusk. His story forces uncomfortable questions about the children growing up in violent homes right now, about the warning signs we choose to ignore, about how easily a monster can hide behind an ordinary face, a soft voice, and a friendly smile. He wasn't a demon. He was a man, shaped by his circumstances and his choices. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. It leaves us with one final question. Is evil something we're born with, or something the world builds inside us?